sometimes. I mean, I've been in political movements where it's hard not to be divided. And it's hard not, to stick with your own position at the same time compromise with others who have very different positions. These are not easy things to do. But if you set yourself the rule, I will not be diverted, we will not be divided, then it seems to me you have a long way to go, and in fact you're going to have a terrific impact upon the political climate in this country. So these, it seems to me, are some of the issues that I would want to bring to the table. I left New York about 4 days before they occupied Wall Street, so I haven't actually been to Wall Street yet. So this is my first time at one of these meetings, and I think this is absolutely great. And I think that actually, when I get back, I'm going to try and, get together with the Wall Street folk as well. And what I'm sure they would want me to say to you is, keep the struggle going. Keep going. The struggle continues, as they say. Keep it going. And that is the crucial question, that we have to be persistent as well as, undiverted and undivided. So I'm going to stop here because I want to have a sort of more of a conversation and get some kind of responses from what you think and how you think, because I would want to take some ideas back with me to the United States when I get there, and perhaps also when I return to Argentina, which I will try to have some conversations there, because this movement is not just about London. You're in the heart of You're in the heart of the beast, the belly of the beast, and your job is to give the beast stomachache. But the more stomachache you get, the more grouchy they're likely to get. So you have to understand that is likely to happen, and then you have to stiffen your resolve. This is going to be a long haul for all of us, I think, and so I congratulate you on what you've done. This is a marvellous kind of site, and I think it's a marvellous initiative that you've taken. And I think that, like I say, this is going to change politics in a very fundamental way. And keep at it, keep at it, keep at it.
Thank you very much. Okay guys, as we always do in these kinds of events, particularly in Intensity Uni, we're going to be as democratic as possible, open it to the floor and have questions. What we're going to do, given that obviously there are a lot of people that are going to want to ask questions, if you could line up here, if we could clear this space to the left of the stage, you could line up here perhaps in groups of 3. We'll have 3 questions, then we'll allow David a chance to answer, then we'll have 3 further questions. Please make them actually questions though, right? Because we've got about 45 minutes and that means we don't have so much time for tub thumping.
I think if we could eat here.
Where's your place?
It must be somewhere though, although it's Saturday.
We want to look for somewhere now.
Yeah?
Where's all the straight questions I
You can always.
Might just go for a wander and see what there is.
So in the interim, could you all just make sure that you can be sat down so that everyone around you can see you and participate? Okay, just before we kick off, I've just been handed a note, and I think this is especially appropriate. Yesterday was Remembrance Day. tomorrow is Remembrance Sunday. Lots of us are wearing poppies, and around the country we've had minute silence for those fallen in conflict. But it's not just those in conflict that fall. I'm sure a lot of you saw the headline on the Metro the other day about a couple that committed suicide as a result of the welfare cuts that our government has visited on this society. They're not the only. We've had 10 people since the Tories came to power commit suicide directly as a result of government-induced poverty. And so the proposal here is that we hold a minute silent for those and for those that fall around the world as a result of this. So, if you please just remain silent for a minute. Thank you very much, everybody. This is what solidarity looks like.
Thank you, David, for coming and speaking. Personally, I think if anyone wants to get a 10-minute reduced version of what David is saying, it's on a website, which is where I became aware of it, RSA Animate, an animation of David Harvey explaining the crisis of capitalism. And I think it's just such a brilliant distillation of what's going on. Often the criticism that's been said about the Occupy movements is your analysis of what's going wrong may be accurate, but what are you actually going to do as a solution structurally? And from what I'm gathering from what you said, David, much of what has happened in the last 25 years, the Thatcherism, the liberalisation, the relaxing of laws which control how capital is accumulated. Do you see us being able to revert back to a stage which is more just or fairer, or do you think the whole thing has to be thrown out of the window totally, and what would you propose structurally could replace it, if that's not too much of a question to ask? David? Did you have? Yeah, it's great.
I've got very little time, but I'll be as brief as possible. We've seen here what a few hundred tents can do, but we also know this is a movement of thousands of people who have been here, and millions of people around the country support us. Imagine what we could do. My question is, how could we build a movement of millions to stop austerity, to stop neoliberalism? I have a few answers. Mine, I suggest maybe if we issued a call out, to say that we're going to occupy every school which is going to be closed, every youth centre, every hospital. If we issued this call out, we would have the support of millions of people around the country. And I think this is the most important question. How do we turn the hundreds or thousands into millions?
Actually, I agree with all of most of the points David made. I got a question for David, because he said the torturism is a main problem, and in the meantime started with the capitalism as a systematic problem. My question is, shall we get rid of the torturism, or shall get rid of the capitalism as a whole? That's my main question. Yeah. And then it's, of course, I think it's a good idea if we develop this occupation and strike and continuation of this kind of movement, and we have to do it wherever it's possible locally without hierarchy and without leader. What do you think, David?
Okay, very quickly. Yes, we need to deal with capitalism, but actually if you look at the options which are out there in terms of what the capitalist class is proposing, they only have one solution, and that's austerity, and that is, if you like, the perpetuation and endgame of Thatcherism. And so to end Thatcherism is in fact to end the options for capitalism. That is the position I would take. And by the way, in an interesting sort of just tactical point, it's very good to have a figure that you're going to get rid of. And it's the dame and everything that she stands for and the shadow of what she created that needs to be gotten rid of in exactly the same way in the United States. We need to get rid of the shadow of Reagan, and in Chile they need to get rid of the shadow of Pinochet, and what we're seeing right now is the shadow of all of these people is maintained long after they're gone. I mean, look at the situation in Egypt. In Egypt, okay, they got rid of a dictator, and hasn't things really changed that much? South Africa, they got rid of apartheid. Have they got rid of economic apartheid? No. So in effect, what we're seeing is a situation in which we've got to have some sort of way of focusing what it is that we want to do, and then in going after that, we will certainly arrive at the point where capital accumulation cannot continue without the austerity, without the Thatcherite kind of response.
I've got a question, and it's more to do with the working group which has recently been formed about about the Occupy movement globally taking patents for ideas and inventions that can be used for clean energy, can be used for water purification systems. And I was wondering whether David Harvey would be willing to help us build some of those links and spread that idea so we can open source these technologies so that no matter how much money you have access to that knowledge.
Dr. Harvey, you've written before about the individualization of society, or maybe the atomization of society and of political movements as well. How do we assure that this movement does not become too atomized, that people can stay strong in their solidarity with one another? Thank you.
I found it surprising that you said that we should try and create a movement that could force somebody in power to do something that's more like we want. As opposed, do you not think that we are able of creating a movement that is fully democratic, that we can do things for ourselves? Similarly, I was surprised that you were saying that we need to force capital to take on the externalities. I don't think capital is going to do that. So yes, we should try and force it, and we'll win some great things while doing that. But we've got to force it while being aware that we're only going to be able to force it that far. And at the same time, we've got to be creating our own alternative forms of power. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I think the alternative forms of power are crucial. Absolutely crucial, no question about it. But at some point or other, you have to look to creating forms of organization that, unfortunately, look somewhat like a state. Now, you may not like that, but you have to do it. And there are some issues that need to be covered in, I think, a different organizational form than those which are often being proposed in movements of this sort. These are what we call tightly coupled systems. For example, you don't want to have an assembly of air traffic controllers having a discussion over whether planes should turn left or right. You want a tightly coupled system of authority and structures that actually organizes things. And if a nuclear